resurrecting the past.
The earth, like an organism, was slowly breathing. Yet this breath was not a sign of life, but a cold harbinger of death. The surface, cracked like a shell carrying the decayed memories of millennia of civilizations, hid echoes of a forgotten past. The sky was no longer the infinity to which humanity once gazed in hope. It was now a thick metallic haze, suffocating and gray. Even when the sun rose, darkness prevailed because the light was turned into formless sorrow within the poisonous atmosphere. No one said good morning anymore. That word had long lost its meaning. The bodies of the megacities reached for the sky, but their foundations were as decayed as the ground they stood on. For those living in the lower levels, the sky was nothing but a myth, so high above them that its existence remained only in legends. The ultra-rich, those above, lived in luxurious domed artificial atmospheres, while those below faced a cycle of hunger, disease, and untimely deaths. Water, once humanity's most precious inheritance, was now nothing more than a blue memory that only the chosen few could drink. The polluted seas bore traces of oil, forming massive islands of plastic. Water purification centers were no longer controlled by governments but by corporations, and these corporations treated water not as a resource but as a weapon. The poor died from thirst, while the rich continued to build pools in which to swim. This world was no longer a place to live. It was a sanctuary to be abandoned. But escape was not so easy for humanity. Technology had advanced, yes. Spacecraft had been built, some tested as far as Jupiter's orbit. However, these ships were not for humanity. They were for only a few hundred chosen individuals. They would escape this collapse on Earth, perhaps even build a new civilization, though in all likelihood they would repeat the same mistakes on a new planet. And among these crumbs of hope, a project called Nuvra was born. In an age where governments had collapsed, religions had become the cause of war, and money had turned into God if science could still speak. It was the voice of Nuvra.
The past is fighting back, force-feeding the stream.
Nuvra was an invisible laboratory built 1,000 meters deep underground. Hidden from sight, it was a mystery veiled beyond time. Those working here were like memory capsules, carrying humanity's last scientific hopes. Each one was at the pinnacle of their field. Some had revolutionized genetic engineering. Others had questioned the concept of time in astrophysics. But what brought them together was not success, but faith. A fragile, yet still burning belief that humanity could once again be steered in the right direction. Among these chosen ones was one who stood out, not only for his intelligence but for his charisma and fearlessness. Kale Dravian, the top student in every school, the winner of every competition, the final word in every debate. His eyes were like radar scanning the unknown, not empty promises. The injustices he witnessed as a child had not only made him angry, they had shaped him. Every bully who approached him had learned the sharpness of his fists more than his words. If leadership still meant something in this world, Kale carried it on his shoulders. Kale's facial features were defined by harsh lines. Years of working underground had drained the color from his skin, but had deepened the intensity of his gaze. He was not merely a project manager. He was a guide in a post-apocalyptic world. Every decision made by the 17-member crew was first tested in his silence, then brought to life by his words. The goal of the Nuvra project was not merely to reach another planet. It was an exploration that would push the boundaries of the human mind, parallel universes, consciousness transfer, the relative flow of time, and universal harmony. The ship was not just a tool for exploration, but a symbol of humanity sent into the unknown. Its name was Sephira. Sephira was the first and only spacecraft made of graphene titanium alloy, surrounded by magnetic plasma shields, and suitable for atmospheric entry. Its interior was futuristic yet minimalist, equipped with artificial intelligence-driven holographic projections, task-based modular spaces, and gravity-controlled compartments. Everything had been constructed with a perfect balance between functionality and safety. Tested in Jupiter's magnetic fields, it had become the most solid structure in history, with a design that would not bend or break over time. But the greatest feature of Sephira was not its outer shell or its engine power. It was the crew it carried. This 17-member crew was not composed only of scientists, but also military strategists, former hackers, neurophilosophers, and even a poet. Because this journey was not just a scientific test, but an existential one. These people, who had witnessed the collapse of Earth and now felt they belonged nowhere else, were chosen to lay the foundations of a new order. They were not only humanity's brightest, but also its most broken. Kale Dravian, as he looked at a massive holographic galaxy map in the ship's central, spinal control section, narrowed his eyes and whispered, "The Earth wants to blow its ashes on another star. We are just the match." At that moment, the crew's astrophysicist, Nis Aurelia, pushed her short, silver hair back and approached him. Her eyes were accustomed to the dark voids of space. She had spent decades observing black holes and star births. Now she was here to go beyond these stars. "The match creates fire, Kale, but we don't know what we will burn." Kale smiled, but it wasn't a smile of hope. It was an acceptance. Maybe the entire universe is a forest ready to burn. After these words, a brief silence filled the control room. Everyone could feel the weight of the approaching launch. Time had lost its abstraction. The past had become more than just memories. It was an embarrassing reminder. The future was just a possibility. Before Sephira was brought from the underground hangar to the surface, final checks were being conducted. The AI systems had activated. The ship's atmosphere had been balanced, and the energy sources were turned on. Kale gathered the crew one last time. He assembled them in an oval briefing room surrounded by heavy steel walls. All faces were tired but resolute. Some were afraid, but they had learned not to show it. Kale walked to the center of the room, made eye contact with each crew member one by one, and then, in a deep but soft tone, he spoke. "This is not salvation. This is not judgment either. This is the final chance we give ourselves. The Earth birthed us and we poisoned it. Now we either carry its memory to infinity or to oblivion. Each of you is the bearer of this mission. And remember, in this universe, nothing is a coincidence."
Ripping the void. Let's see if there's a God waiting. Remnant